This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to the program. Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to have him with us. John, thanks for being here.
It's always a pleasure to be with you.
We'll just share a little peek into your private life here. You're a bachelor this week, and what's for dinner? I want to know while your wife is out of town.
What is for dinner? Well, I haven't even thought about it, but a bowl of ice cream is beckoning right now, and I'm in the mood to go that. I'm in the mood to invest that much work in preparation to get a bowl and dip up some ice cream. I can't pass beyond that. I did cook for myself yesterday, but I do that normally anyway, so it's not that different.
Gotcha. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream, and what do you put on top of it?
I like caramel and chocolate and peanut butter in any combination. Chocolate chip ice cream, caramel swirl with chocolate chips, anything in that family. Rocky Road, that kind of thing. That's what I like.
I gotcha. All right.
What about you?
Well, I used to be heavily into the chocolate ice cream. I've had some GI problems that have caused me to not have dairy anymore, so I go pretty much orange sherbet or rainbow sherbet every chance I get.
Yeah, I think sorry, I forgot that. Yeah, with your GI issues, probably no ice cream is your favorite ice cream.
Yeah. Well, there were some bad experiences with ice cream there for a little while, and I do.
Let's get to the politics. That's more pleasant.
It's more interesting for sure. All right. Let's begin with the Democratic Convention starts this week. It should be a very highly fine-tuned PR machine for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz as they step onto the national stage in a much bigger way than they already have. What's your expectation for the week in terms of what we will see?
First, it's what you said. I mean, it's all been a rush job, but they've known their candidate. They have a new, fresh message that is working in its introductory phase. They've had a very successful rollout of a new, kind of exciting candidate, a new and interesting and appealing running mate, and they've handled all that with aplomb in terms of getting their message out, having the imaging that they want, presenting it as they want, and fortuitously now is their convention when they will try to control their images of their presentation, and surely they're good enough to do it well. So I think they've got a chance to have a four-night show that will work to their benefit. Now, and I think I know what it's going to be. And we'll see if it bears out. The first night is Joe Biden night. Joe, we love you. You're one of the great presidents ever. You ought to be on Rushmore. Bless you. Thank you. We couldn't have saved this country from Trump without you. You're one of the great presidents, and you're great. And we all think so. And we're going to give you the longest standing ovation. We're going for the world record, and it's going to be a big night. But now, after Monday night, we're done with you. That's it. Obama's going to speak Tuesday night, and he will allude to you as his vice president, and he will praise you, but he will give a more general Democratic turnout message. And then on Wednesday, Bill Clinton's going to give one of his talks, and Tim Walz then, he's going to try to do at least half as well as he did in his Philadelphia debut. And then on Thursday night, it's Kamala Harris, and her message is all about future. We're not going to go back. She's going to try to cash in on being younger, on being a fresher face. So, Joe, Monday is for you. The rest of it isn't. The rest of it is for a new message. And her message, by the way, is not going to duplicate his much. It's interesting that she's talking about the future, but she's not talking about trying to save democracy. She's not talking about litigating January 6th, because that wasn't doing it. She wants to give a new message, and she may try to be specific on her economic plan or her price gouging thing to indicate that she's got some ideas that are different, unique to her, and that she's the game now. She's the Democratic leader. If they pull all that off successfully, which I think they have a chance to do. It'd be a big week for them, and her lead of 1 to 3 or 4 points could grow a little bit coming out of this convention.
Do you think that message of the future that you're talking about versus the themes that we were seeing in a Biden-Trump rematch, do you think that's poll tested? Do you think that's some sort of gut instinct? Do you think that's just kind of where the dynamic of the race shifted and so the message had to shift? What do you think was the driver of that message change?
I think it's all of that, the things you mentioned. All these things obviously are poll tested. And poll tested even for the experts, for the outstanding expert consultants. Your poll findings will reflect how you design your queries and what kinds of things you poll. And that's not to say the Biden people were defying their polls or running false polls. It's just how you design your message, and then you test the message you have in mind. I also think that the smart consultants surely will tell you, knew that there's a thing in tennis: change a losing game. You get beat 6-0 in the first set, do a different tactic in the second set. The Democrats were losing. They lost the first set. Trump was about to be the presumptive winner, particularly after that debate. So change a losing game. And in fact, I do believe that the emphasis on the criminal prosecution, both in terms of actual prosecution and in making political issue of it, had reached whatever apex of benefit it was going to, and was beginning to have a backlash problem for the Democrats, because you need to beat some. You can't. There's no shortcuts through the courtrooms to winning elections. You got to have a message that appeals to the voters. So I think it's good consulting. I think they've polled it and know that it's good. They got the personalities for it. They've got it's stylistic. Everybody says she's not talking about issues. Nobody's talking about issues. If issues decide elections, then whichever side wants to cut taxes and whichever side doesn't want to cut taxes would win every election. They're about the philosophies control about 90% of the voters. The rest are people who go by feeling, how they feel about somebody. They're not going to vote on political philosophy. They'll vote one way one time and one way the next based on how they feel. And the Harris campaign is going smartly for we're new, we're different, we're better, we have joy. We're not an old man saying get off my lawn. We're not a guy out here losing his mind in public. Look at this, and they know that's working, and they're going to write it.
I would state the obvious too, and that is that an 82-year-old Joe Biden was probably not going to be the vessel to send the message about hope for the future and change for the future either. So,
yeah, the advantage to the Democrats is that they now have a vessel. They now have a player who can play that kind of game. Neither side did before, so the status quo prevailed, and other things were the factor. It's going to be interesting to see if this temperament changes, if the Republicans succeed in demonizing Kamala Harris for being an out-of-touch, dangerous liberal. That's the other game that could be played. Republicans have been so inept at trying to drive that, and she's been so filled with joy and happiness and all the momentum that they haven't. And there's no need to work on it too much until after they do their convention and see what they can accomplish. But anyway, you started to say something.
Well, there's been some, attempts at messaging from Trump and some of the Republicans, and I think this week, or at least today, they've settled on Comrade Kamala. There's some, I guess we're going to make her to be a communist or Soviet of some sort of the old school.
An out-of-touch liberal that you need to fear. Don't start laughing with her. Don't start thinking she seems like such a happy person and a fresh face. There's nothing fresh about this tired old liberalism that's going to run up your taxes, and this is what they're going to go for: run up your taxes and take over your lives, and all these things that don't really apply anymore, though, because of the way republicanism has come to try to take over lives as well on certain issues. Even so, that's their game. It's the fresh face, joy. We're about the future. We're younger game, and then it's the don't fall for that. She's a liberal from San Francisco. That's all you need to know. That's our game. I think that's our game.
Well, we'll see what happens with the convention this week. I would say the next and potentially final turning point of the election season would be the debate in October.
That's big. That's big. Also, by the way, I think there are going to be demonstrations this week. Democrats always are more prone to demonstrations than Republicans. There's a rich history of demonstrations in Chicago, and the anti-Israel, whatever you want to call it, that group, pro-Palestinian, America shouldn't defend Netanyahu, whatever their point is. I'm sure they'll be out there demonstrating, and I'm sure that some young network people who haven't ever covered a demonstration during a convention before will probably play it up. But as long as they're not ridiculous or get out of control or people are hurt, that's not really. That's just dialogue in the modern era, and I don't think that issue is one that the Republicans ought to worry about that much. But I think it's going to happen. There is some worry that some of the uncommitted delegates who got elected from Arab American communities, frankly, that there could be demonstrations in the hall. That's just the only other element that I do want to throw into the mix. And how does that play? Is that off-putting to people? Does it distract them from their message? That's just one thing to keep in mind.
Yeah. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's turn our attention to Arkansas. You had a column on Sunday that talked about kind of it's a quasi-political, quasi-casino, quasi-sports story. I'm going to let you kind of lay out what the conversation is right now. I've been hit up with this conversation as well from several different sides, and I think that your column did the best job of explaining what's happening politically with casinos, NIL, and maybe the University of Arkansas.
First, Saracen Casino in Pine Bluff is a heck of a success story particularly in terms of their online sports wagering. They generate 3 times as much business in online wagering as Oaklawn or Southland, who also were permitted to do it. They've promoted it well. It's a big thing, and their young marketing executive Carlton Saffa. I first got tangled up with him when he was a big ACES supporter, and I wasn't. And but he's very smart, and he's very capable, and he says you always got to be looking to something new. And the latest thing he came up with is let's just have a drawing, buy for a chance to win, with half the money going to whoever wins the drawing, and the other half going to the NIL programs of our major colleges. So they can buy the athletes, which is what the game is about now, buy the college athletes. 90% of it, participants would choose which team they wanted their money to go to. 90% of it would go to the Razorbacks, of course. So he's saying it's just a simple drawing. And by the way, we want to expand our online wagering to everything. We want to put a slot machine on there, blackjack. So he's really, and then you've got the state. Sarah Sanders' DFNA saying that's against the law, you can't do it. Then you've got other people saying it is not. So, and Sarah's saying, I want to help the Razorbacks, and I want to, but I don't know what she said. She wants to help the Razorbacks. Oaklawn said, we're against it because we don't think that we need to expand online gambling, so we're going to send $500,000 in some of our money up to the Razorbacks. So it's kind of funny to me, and it's a good spectator sport to watch Saracen, promote this idea and get Oaklawn a little lathered up and get the governor's office in a bit of a squeeze, and the Razorbacks are up here. They need to buy some better quarterbacks, maybe, or some better players.
Hey, the football team's undefeated right now, John. Come on.
I know it well. And one way to stay that way after the actual play starts would be to have, and this would be a steady revenue stream. So you got the guy down at Saracen saying, we're talking about a steady revenue stream on voluntary drawing payments by the people of the state. It's a recurring stream. You could budget it. Oakland's sending them $500,000. one time is fine, but that's not, so it's got everything, man, from an Arkansas standpoint. I mean, if the Razorbacks are the biggest thing. Politics is kind of a big thing. Oaklawn's a big thing. Saracen's becoming a big thing. You got gambling, you got the Razorbacks, you got politics, you've got some big time politics, if you consider Governor Sanders being in, she's sort of kept herself in a moderately low profile, but she's got some friends over here and she's got some worries over here, and her DFNA is maybe going to stop it, and then maybe Attorney General Tim Griffin will do an Attorney General's opinion. My point is, I don't gamble. I find gambling unseemly, but I sure do enjoy good spectator sport, and watching these people square off and maybe fight is good spectator sport. It also might be important, I guess, if you think it's important that these casinos succeed and that the Razorbacks succeed. So I think it's a heck of a fun story. Don't you? Don't you find it?
It is, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And you can read all about it online at arkansasonline.com.
What part I didn't tell you is in there, but okay, yeah.
All right, he's John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always appreciate you.
And you too. Take care.